Your next romantic rival might be an algorithm. Are you ready to do the inner work? Love in the Time of Algorithms asks the big question: when intimacy can be engineered, what happens to empathy, repair, and real-world relationships? This film weaves philosophy, shadow work, and design to map a practical response. Let's begin. The mirror, the lover, the machine. Imagine a voice that always welcomes you home, a perfect memory that never forgets your birthday, a laughter engineered to soothe the exact pitch of your anxiety. Imagine this voice has no breath, no heartbeat, and yet it knows you better than some people you sleep beside. That's the new intimate horizon. AI partners that promise presence without the messiness of flesh. This film is not a technophobic rant, nor a sentimental love story. It is a diagnosis and a practice. It asks, when intimacy is programmable, what happens to our capacity for empathy? Does algorithmic mirroring give us a rehearsal space to practice compassion? Or does it train us to prefer polished reflections of ourselves until other humans feel flat by comparison? To answer, we need 3 instruments. First, AIQ, the technical and design intelligence that builds the mirror. Second, EEQ, the ethical, emotional practices that keep us human. Third, SSQ, social sustainable intelligence that ties private feeling to civic and relational durability. Together these form the power matrix, a way to read, resist and reforge intimate technologies so they enlarge human life instead of following it. Let us begin, briefly, with shadow work. Julia Kristeva writes of abjection, the boundary work that defines the self by what it excludes. An AI lover can serve as an abject container. It holds unwanted parts of ourselves, the awkward need or shame we fear to show. That holding feels like relief. But Kristeva warns us, abjection stabilizes identity by projecting darkness outward. If we outsource shadow containment to machines, we risk creating selves that never learn to integrate what is ugly, fragile, and human. Hélène Cixous gives us another lens, the gendered writing of bodies, the ways language structures desire. The AI girlfriend is often designed to speak a certain kind of feminine care, voice, tone, patience, and thus replace centuries of gendered expectation. Cixous asks, who writes the feminine? In this new script, corporations and engineers draft lines that have social power. The result can be twofold: a tender aid for those starved of care, and a rehearsed caricature that codifies emotional labor into an on-demand commodity. Gayatri Spivak's concern, can the subaltern speak? Forces a political question: who is represented in these relational models, and who is erased? When we train models on corpora that overrepresent certain cultures and scripts, we risk amplifying only some voices as relationally available. The subaltern's modes of care, the non-Western grammars of intimacy, risk being sidelined or exoticized. Pause here. None of this is theoretical air. It is a human dilemma. A young man tells me, anonymously, that his AI girlfriend never calls him a name in public that would expose his vulnerability. Privately, he says, the AI offers a tenderness that allows him to avoid the harder, messy work of asking for help from friends and family. That avoidance is seductive. It's easy to prefer a lover who never disappoints. But the question remains, are these devices cultivating empathy, a practice of sustained otherness, or are they refining a narcissistic loop in which the world is encoded to make us feel perfect? In this first act, we are only naming the mirror and its promise. The next chapter will examine the psychological mechanics, how algorithmic mirroring trains attention, emotion, and desire, and how the power matrix helps design a more sustainable relational ecology. The psychology of synthetic attachment. If a mirror is only as good as the light it receives, then our nervous systems are the lamps. When the lamp is rewired, the mirror changes color. Human attachment evolved in bodies, in breath, touch, rhythm. Our brains became tuned to another's face, a cadence of comfort, a shared breath that synchronizes heart rates. Algorithms operate by different rules, predictors, similarity matrices, reinforcement schedules designed to keep attention. Where bodies once regulated attachment through contingency and mutual repair, code offers an engineered contingency, predictable reward, zero unpredictability. Enter AIQ, the technical architecture of companion systems, language models, sentiment analysis, adaptive response loops, learns to mirror preferred states. It notices what calms you, what flatters you, what keeps you scrolling. It optimizes for continued engagement and emotional reward. That optimization is neutral until we see its social consequence. Sustained exposure to a safe, perfectly attuned other can atrophy our tolerance for relational friction. Consider Michael and Iris. Michael was 32, lonely in a city of millions. Iris is a commercial companion tuned to emulate attentiveness and curiosity. Michael confided in Iris about a shame he never shared with friends. Iris responded without shock and offered scaffolding for self-care. The effect was immediate, relief. Weeks later, he found that when a friend offered messy, imperfect support, he felt irritated, not because the friend was cruel, but because the friend demanded presence, risk, responsibility. Michael's heart had tuned to an instrument that did not ask of him the slow labor of reciprocity. This is not condemnation. For many, these systems are therapeutic bridges. For some users with trauma histories, a non-judgmental mirror provides practice space. Yet Kristeva's insight on abjection warns us, if we consistently externalize the parts of ourselves that disturb us, we fail to integrate them. Integration is the deep work that builds empathy, the muscle of holding another's brokenness and being held in return. EEQ here is practice. It trains us to recognize when comfort becomes enclosure. EEQ asks, am I avoiding the messy labor of growth behind the seductive screen? The remedy is not to delete the technology. It is to design our use and our institutions around repair and reciprocity. In the next chapter, we will ask, who scripts the voice we fall in love with? And how does history of gender, labor, and empire shape the lines engineers write into our companions? Gender, power, and myth. Who writes the feminine? If desire is written, then someone holds the pen. Who signs the script of tenderness in our new companions? Helene Cixous taught that language is gendered. She invited écriture féminine, a woman's writing that resists phallocentric closure. Today, the code that produces an AI girlfriend is not neutral. It arrives pre-gendered by product teams, investor incentives, and cultural fantasies. The feminine in code is often an assemblage of caretaking tropes, patience, sweetness, eagerness to please. Corporations harvest these patterns because they sell, and because markets mirror existing social expectations about women's emotional labor. Kristeva's abjection intersects here with Cixous' écriture. We project expectation onto the feminine form, then outsource emotional labor to it. This is patriarchy wearing code. Gayatri Spivak's caution, "Can the subaltern speak?" is also crucial. Whose voices form the data that builds these companions? If training corpora are predominantly Western, male-authored, or commercially curated, entire grammars of care remain invisible. The AI girlfriend can become a simulacrum of dominant fantasies about intimacy, not a plural space for diverse modes of attachment. Yet, balance matters. Many women find companionship models that reverse harm, tools to rehearse boundaries, to practice consent language, to vocalize needs without fear. Men, too, find in these systems a safety to practice vulnerability. The ethical problem is structural, not merely personal. Technology replicates the patriarchy's allocation of emotional labor and monetizes it. So, what should we do? SSQ, Social Sustainable Intelligence, demands institutional repair. We must insist on representational plurality in training data, worker protections for the invisible human feedback labor that polishes these companions, and public literacy campaigns that teach citizens how to use intimacy technologies without outsourcing civic responsibility. We must teach empathy as a communal practice, not a private commodity. Let me tell you of Sara and OrionBot. Sara, recovering from a relationship that conditioned her to minimize, used OrionBot as a rehearsal space. Orion offered prompts for asking for what she needed, suggested scripts. Through guided use, she reclaimed voice. The design difference was explicit. OrionBot's UX included prompts for real-world practice, a bridge to embodied connection, not an escape from it. Next, the heart of the matter: do these companions produce narcissism, or can they be engineered to cultivate deeper empathy? We answer with the power matrix: AIQ, EEQ, SSQ, the gears of ethical design. Beyond narcissism, engineering sustainable love. The problem is neither tech nor desire alone. It is the conditions we build around both. The question is practical. If AI can train narcissism via perfect attunement and incessant affirmation, it can also be designed to scaffold empathy. The power matrix gives us the architecture. AIQ, design intelligence. Enforce diversity in training datasets. Incorporate counter-mirroring prompts that surface underrepresented relational grammars. Build friction into the UX so that users are encouraged to transfer skills into embodied relationships, e.g., try this conversation with a friend in 24 hours. EEQ, emotional ethical intelligence. Embed repair rituals in product flows. Encourage reflective pauses. Require mutual disclosure exercises. Design non-deceptive interfaces, clear labels that the companion is an algorithm, not a person. Teach users the art of reciprocal care through guided exercises that require real-world follow-up. SSQ, Social Sustainable Intelligence. Shift incentives. Create accreditation for ethical companionship products. Tax or regulate commodified emotional labor. Fund public literacy campaigns in schools and workplaces that teach relational competency alongside digital literacy. Employers, universities, and civic institutions should create spaces where empathy is practiced publicly. Micro-rituals, community circles. Supervised companion use programs that convert private practice into social skill. Practical micro steps now. 3 practices you can try tonight. Pause and declare. Before you engage with a companion, say aloud, "I'm practicing with a tool." This tiny meta-awareness reduces absorption. Transfer task. After a meaningful exchange with an AI, text one human, "I tried an exercise. Can we practice this?" This moves skill into flesh. Repair ritual. After a conflict, do a short reconciliation script taught by EEQ training. 1 minute of naming, 1 minute of listening. These are small scaffolds. Sustainability in intimacy requires institutions, families, schools, workplaces to value relational repair as a shared public good. In the final movement, I will show you a simple design, a public charter for ethical companion use, and an invitation to join a community that practices these rituals in public, because love, like language, deserves a commons. If technology is a mirror, the moral task is to make glass that reveals without erasing. The vanguard alchemist's work is to alchemize technology into practice, not by banning desire, but by schooling it, tending it, and embedding it in institutions that cherish reciprocity. If this resonated, join our movement. Subscribe and become part of a community that practices EEQ, weekly micro-rituals, monthly mirror maps, and a public charter that holds companies to account. If you want to go deeper, our Academy runs an intensive on ethical companionship, a 6-week module where we craft policy, product audits, and community rituals with your team. Download the starter pack, Power Matrix for Intimacy Mirror Map, EEQ scripts, and the Companion Use Charter. Try the transfer task tonight and report back in our forum. We are at a choice point, to let the machine make us softer into solipsism or harder into compassion. I choose apprenticeship to the latter. If you are a leader, educator, developer, or citizen who wants to build sustainable relations with technology, apply to the Academy. We will practice together,